the relevance of shaping the diaspora culture through storytelling in 2024 more than any other and in the future will persist right now and will continue to persist because of the ongoing global migration trends.
For flower to celebrate nature, all it needs to do is just flower. That is what it is, just flower. And that is the beauty of nature. So for us to live our culture, all we need to do is just live it, share the experiences with other people. Of course, not everybody is going to like you because you are different, because differences for some other person is a negative thing.
As an ancestral lineage healing practitioner myself, ancestral lineage healing through storytelling involves acknowledging and addressing intergenerational trauma, which I think a lot of times we forget that a lot of that trauma is held within our bodies.
What many experts are saying that relating to African and African spirituality also, in that everything is already here. I sort of tend to repeat that sometimes. Everything is already here in the sense that what become a reality is what you bring from the potential existence to the real existence. So yeah, everything is here. Depending on what you want, you will get it.
Exactly. And I said something in one of my posts recently that from my experience, of being on this earth 6 decades now, I'm beginning to see at this stage in my life that, and doing this particular work, that the universe, the divine, our ancestors, they're always ready to give you what you need. May not be what you want, but what you need. And you just have to reach out and be observant, because it may come the way it will come. It may not be in the way that you want it to come, but they're always ready to give you what you need. And I'm finding that over the past few weeks that I've had so many challenges, but in between those challenges, I've been given so many other blessings. They keep coming, and if I wasn't paying attention to them, I would just focus on all the things that are happening that are challenging for me. But the gift comes it comes in human beings, like the support I get from you. I somebody out of the blue would just send me a message, just at that moment when I need it. And some people just take it for granted. Oh, somebody sent you a message. No, this is the universe and you and your ancestors sending you what you need to pick you up, so you keep going, if you are willing to look at it, because people are, they want, they want it to have a different, to look in a different way, but sometimes what you need are just the very simple evidence of kindness, simple evidence of validity, simple evidence of you being witnessed, as to, the challenges you're going to, even if the person doesn't know what it is in detail. But there's something about somebody sending you a message of kindness, or if you're talking to someone, they say something that, I'm always listening. I always talk about listening with your heart. When you listen, you hear things differently, and it makes it's like medicine for me. I say we all carry our own different types of medicine, and we use it according to our understanding and our knowledge of the fact that as human beings, we walk around with what our Ori has given us, our medicine, our natural medicine. And it's different from the medicine that the doctor gives you. This is humanity. And I think right now we're living in times where, there's such a need for us to be in touch with that part of who we are as human beings.
Yeah, yeah. That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. I love that. I think later in the future we could actually plan a room to talk about this story. No, first I want to thank those people that are in the audience. I really appreciate your presence here. I see Terrence and I see also Brand Bing. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. So the conversation that we are having today is shaping the diaspora culture through storytelling. So yeah, we believe that storytelling is actually very powerful for us to be able to shape our narrative, to shape our culture, our existence, our coexistence with other people. Yeah, so like I was saying, Sister Gloria, I think the time is coming where we should actually zoom the lens on the Ori, because you have explained before, like some other persons have explained, and also Professor was explaining in the video that I sent to you. It's always coming around, whether in Yoruba culture, in Esa culture where I'm coming from, in the Igbo culture, and among other cultures in Africa. It is important that we take the time to examine some of these elements within our culture that help us to understand who we are. Is fundamental. Is fundamentally important. All right. So looking at the conversation that we have today, shaping the diaspora culture through storytelling. What would be your take on that?
Shaping the diaspora. Again, welcome to those who are in the room. Thank you for being here. Shaping the diaspora culture through storytelling. To me, it's a fascinating and multifaceted topic. Which can be explored in a variety of dimensions. There's a whole range of different ways to look at it. As we always say, Brother Obehi, that stories are not just narratives, they hold cultural memory and identity. They carry the essence of a community's experiences, values, and beliefs. And stories serve as a bridge between the past and the present, allowing diaspora communities to maintain a connection with their roots while navigating their present reality. For instance, the Aboriginal Australians, they have their what they call dream time stories, and the Native American tribes have the creation of myths, which are fundamental to understanding their cultures and worldviews. If you spend any time with these two cultures, they always bring storytelling into everything that they however they express themselves. And similarly, in the diaspora context, Africans have what we call the African griot tales of storytelling, which serve as a thread connecting generations and preserving cultural heritage. These traditions are slowly disappearing, sadly, in the African communities, which is why these rooms are so important that we really honor them and encourage one another to attend these audio rooms. It may not be this, maybe there are other ones maybe you want to create one yourself, but it's important because it helps to raise awareness. And diaspora communities often grapple with the challenge of maintaining a sense of identity while navigating new cultural landscapes. Storytelling becomes a means of negotiation and reaffirmation of identity. I have found, these rooms so exhilarating and so empowering because it's given me the opportunity to reach back, into some of those traditions that I grew up with. And they reside within me, which I didn't realize until certain situations have almost demanded that I reach back, and I've also physically gone back to my home country recently. And a whole new world has opened up to me. You know, diaspora storytelling plays a crucial role in challenging stereotypes and amplifying diverse voices. For example, the emergence of our beautiful African queen, Chimanda Ngozi Adichie, whose novels, I love talking about her novels because, such as the Hall of Half of a Yellow Sun and Americana, which offer nuanced portrayals of Nigeria and Nigerian American experiences, and which contributes to a more comprehensive and authentic representation of diaspora identities. It's really important that we honor these writers, and we see how through their novels, it's storytelling. They're telling us about their experiences, which many of us, it resonates with many of us. And these what are the stories we are telling right now ourselves? What are we sharing with one another, our children, our communities, that can contribute to our healing and resilience? So I'll pass the mic for now. Oh, okay, it's just the two of us. I'll take a breath because I can keep talking.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. I really do. So, of course, when you are looking at storytelling, we are essentially saying that we need to connect among ourselves, share our experiences so that we can learn from each other. Of course, I will keep on saying it, how much I have learned from listening to the story of the people that I met here in the city of Verona when I came here, because that is where this project actually started, which eventually become now the 5-part storytelling mastery. Because I remember a number of occasions I would just stand in front of them and I'm listening to them. But of course, maybe that is me, because I just love to listen to people. I love the art of listening. For me, it's very important. So I just stayed there listening to them telling me how they came here. Some of them left war country. There was a war in their country. That is why they left. Some of them were young students. They wanted to continue schooling. They couldn't go to school. I remember, for example, cases of some Nigerians that I met here who told me how they were hearing of how Europe was. People were going to Europe and coming. And of course, you look at Nigeria history now. In the 70s for Nigeria, traveling abroad to go and stay in abroad was not really a big thing for Nigeria, because the economy was relatively good. Even those that went to study in the United States and UK, they usually return home because things were okay at home, no? But now everything is changed. Now everybody want to jackpot that we call it, no? So at that time, you see these people who actually came here because not that somebody actually forced them to come here, but they hear that, okay, living abroad was good, so they just also come. But when they got to Italy, it was very challenging for them, because I remember stories of people who came here, even though they have the possibility of able to get a house, nobody was ready to give them any house. Of course, you will relate with this story if you know the African story in the West. Sometimes it is, whether you are qualified or not, sometimes you are just denied of that. Those are the experiences of people. Even though you are an expert in your field, I remember I've talked to a Ghanaian woman who got to Italy through a family reunion. She was already a teacher in Ghana, but she got here. She can never teach. She can never teach in Italian school. The only job that she can do here, either some menial job, either going to, peasant work. That is the only job that she can do here, actually. Of course, if she wants to teach here, she will need to go to school in Italy. So these are the story of people. These are the experiences of people. Some of these experiences need to be explained to other people that look like them, and to even people that might not necessarily look like them. Because I remember, for example, in some of the events that are being organized here, we go out to speak, to present this story to people at the university, in cultural center, to talk. And as we are doing this, we are sort of troubling the water a little bit so that people can understand what is going on in the society. So I believe that people of African descent need to have a space, a time, and also the urge to sit together from time to time and share their experiences. We don't always need to expect that other people are going to do this for us. We don't always need to expect that they are going to invite us so that we can then finally talk about it. No, we need to have the initiative ourselves. We need to believe that it is a mission for us to do, that we must say something that our children, our grandchildren here in Europe, in the West, can pick up one day and listen to our experiences. And of course, these experiences can be in the form of maybe a video record, maybe an audio record, maybe a book, but that definitely contain your experiences. Because, like I often say, you are not the end of the line. You are just somewhere in the middle. Before you, there will be people. After you have gone, there will be people. So the question is, in that space of time that you have been here, what do you want people to remember of you? Because if you need to be intentional about that. And that is also the story that we are talking about. Because the people that I've interviewed here in Italy, of course, some of them are no longer here. Some of them have disappeared. Some have even died, no? But what if I never talk to them? Because I have talked to them, that experience that I've documented of that they have told me now lives. Other people that will read this book that I've written, they will read those experiences. They will remember those people. They will imagine where they are coming from. And you are coming from Rwanda. You are coming from, I'm going to be interviewing a Rwanda genocide survivor these coming days. Because these stories are important. You need to tell people what have happened so that people can understand. Because why we do this is also for us to help the generation that are coming after us to know that this something like this have happened. Then it is up to them if they want to repeat it, if they want to avoid it, if they want to look for a way to reframe it, because they are the one living in a new reality. But we owe them this obligation to tell this story, to pass on this culture, these experiences. Because, for example, I live in Verona now, where I still have a lot of Africans that are living here. Now, it is no longer a big deal for you to be able to get a house and stay. Okay, I know now it has become very challenging. Now, if you want to get a house, now they tell you go and buy because it's no longer like it used to be a couple of years ago. But at least we are not living on the street. But the first Africans that came here, they were living on the street, irrespective of whether they had money or not. But of course, if you come in through education, your own was different. But if you didn't come into education, you were literally on the street. Many of them were sleeping on the train station. So that is a story that we also need to tell because that is their experiences. We cannot avoid that. We cannot ignore that because that is a part of the experience. When we talk of the encounter of African and the people of Verona or the people of Italy, that is part of the story because that is how it started.
Thank you, Brother Obehi. Wow. I mean, there's so many opportunities of where and how we can, encourage one another and build on these, the practice of storytelling. We have the digital platforms, social media. They have all been revolutionized the way diaspora stories are shared and consumed on a global scale. So diaspora storytelling will continue to evolve in response to changing social, technological, and geopolitical landscapes. Interactive storytelling experiences, collaborative storytelling platforms like these fabulous audio rooms that you hold, Brother Obey. They hold promise for furthering the reach and impact of diaspora narratives in the digital age. I think an ancestral lineage healing practitioner myself, um, ancestral lineage healing through storytelling involves acknowledging and addressing intergenerational trauma, which I think a lot of times we forget that a lot of that trauma is held within our bodies. And the sharing of personal narratives within diaspora communities can be a powerful tool for healing and resilience building. Diaspora storytelling is a dynamic and evolving form of creative expression. When I think about our brother, the musician and Afrobeat king Fela Kuti, whose music addressed social and political issues facing Nigeria and the African diaspora. It really exemplifies how storytelling can drive cultural innovation and artistic expression. So this is something that this particular time that we're living now, I think it's even more important than it's ever been that we, no matter how sometimes disappointing it may feel that people in the community, some may not seem to see the importance of it or may prefer to put their attention on other less things to do with entertainment, or things that really don't enhance their well-being. But I think at some point, all roads are pointing towards this type of work, storytelling, which is not just for the Africans in the diaspora, it's for humanity. Because as we talk, as others listen, I love when I see in the room a wide variety of people coming in, which to me, I've always said, those who need to hear, the information will find their way to it, and it's we're living in times when it's particularly crucial that we are focused as Africans. We know, what our purpose is. And part of that purpose, in addition to anything else we're doing, is telling our stories, our narratives. So I pass the mic on.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. All right. Thank you, Dr. Matia, for joining us. We appreciate your presence here. So before I pass the mic to you, Dr. Matia, I want to say that it is important that we also consider this storytelling as a way of creating dialogue, even in the community that we live in. I remember, for example, in one of the documentary that I did in line with this storytelling series, and it was titled A New Face in the Neighborhood. That was in relating to a part very close to the University of Verona, which is where most of the Africans were living at the time, but they're still living there. Now it's one of the most intercultural center in the whole of the city of Verona. So I did a documentary there. I was sort of trying to understand what is the difference between that time and this time, and what has actually been the exchange in that place with people coming in, the dynamics of that space. And just like in that part of Verona, which is called Veronetta, there are other places like that across the city. I know that if you go to New York or London, there are spaces like that where you have more immigrants grouping together. Then you have a kind of economy, a different type of economy growing there, because these people, because they need to live, they have their shops, they sell their food, the famous African shop. That is what we call it here, in Italy. This is a space where you usually go to buy food, to buy African food, because the typical Italian shop, you don't find the type of African food that you are looking for there. Because now we are African, we want to eat African food. Okay, I'm lucky, I'm married to a Nigerian, and my wife is also from my place. So the food that we eat here in Italy is more or less like the food I would have eaten in Nigeria if I were in Nigeria. So, but this is how we have recreated our life here, in that this sort of help us to break down the tension of nostalgia, in that, yes, we are away from home, but we also try to recreate home somehow. But this way, we also try to tell our story. In this way, we also try to remind ourselves of where we are coming from. In this way, we also, of course, try to talk about also the challenges that we have. But as we talk among ourselves, we sort of come to help each other to live the moment, the time, the challenges that we are having, and the experiences that we are having as a people. We live it easier compared to maybe where we don't have people to share these experiences with. Because if you don't share what you are going through with people, you carry it in your head, because there is no two ways about that. You either share the energy, you release it, or you keep it in yourself, then you carry it along. And when you carry it along, it can be really very heavy. That is so true. It can be really very heavy. So in terms of the dialogue, I think when we share our story, we help also other people to understand who we are. Because now we are Africans in the diaspora. We cannot pretend that other people that are not African will just understand our culture, understand our nuances, the way that we behave, our name, the sound of the perfume of our food. They don't get it automatically. And of course, it's not that we really need to organize a ceremony to say, hey, come today, I'm going to be talking to you about why my food smells like this, or why I dress like this, or why I do like that. It's not necessarily going to be like that, even though sometimes it does happen. In Verona, for example, where I live, there is a festival that is done every year where you have people from all walks of life, particularly within the area of culture, coming from different parts of the world, from Brazil to India, to different African countries where they exhibit their culture. Of course, things like this does happen. But other than that, our story, the story that we tell, help people to understand us. It helps people to understand our feeling. It helps people to understand our perspective, how we see where we are living in, and also what we are carrying behind our back. Because we are not alone. We are carrying generational story that date back several thousands of years. We are also connected to that. So through storytelling, we help the people to understand that we are not just statistics, because what the mainstream media want to do in the story of immigration, this is very common in the United States, but also in Europe, is that they tend to look at immigrants as just statistics, as just number. But I say, no, immigrants are not just number, they are human beings. They are carrying history, they are carrying culture, they are carrying ways of life. All this needs to be explained through the story that we tell, and they also tell about us. But if we don't tell this story now, we give them the chance to further transform who we are into mere statistics. So it is important that we as a people, we continue to hone our story. We continue to let people understand that we have a story. Tell this story so that they can better understand who we are and what we represent in this society. So yeah, Dr. Marcia, so I want to pass the mic to you. I want to hear from you. So what is your take on the conversation? Shaping the diaspora storytelling or diaspora culture through storytelling. Please take it up from there.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, everyone, depending on where you're from. As was told, I'm Dr. Marcia Thomas. I'm a Christian leadership consultant and life coach. I am also an author, and I have written students' books, tell their stories so that they could think critically and lovingly confront their circumstances and situations and create their own solutions to their problems by thinking about it in the stories that they listen to in my story production. I am presently nominated, and I'm just begging your permission to do this. Obi, my latest book, Leader Like You, has been presently nominated. And so I've been nominated as an author in two categories for an award. In two categories, it's a nomination. And so, it relies heavily on your vote. And so I'm going to ask Obi, when we're finished, to put the link in the chat. You can vote as many times as you like. I am in business/career and also in top women empowerment. Those two categories. I'd love to take home one. And so I need your votes. And in the meantime, you can actually get a copy of your book and you can do your review on Amazon. Thank you so much. The topic today, Obi, is really a pertinent one. And I'm finding that it is becoming a persistent one also, because the relevance of shaping the diaspora culture through storytelling in 2024 more than any other and in the future will persist right now and will continue to persist because of the ongoing global migration trends, the evolving dynamics of how we integrate culture, and this question of identity and the transformational impact that digital media on storytelling practices is pushing in our face. And so these factors continue to underscore the the continued importance of understanding how storytelling shapes the diaspora experience, how it magnifies and illuminates the identities, and how communities interconnect in today's world. So, shaping the diaspora through storytelling means that we are preserving our heritage, our identity, our culture. We are fostering personal and collective responsibility and accountability. We are fostering a community of practice, and we are navigating the complexities of how our identities in different and varied environments take shape. I want us to look a little at the diaspora. What does diaspora really mean for persons who do not understand the importance of it? It really refers to a scattered population, according to Wikipedia, with a common origin. And so These people are dispersed across the world, but they are far from home or their ancestral land, and they reside in these different parts and have to maintain connections with their original culture, their heritage, their identity, while navigating their new environment and adapting. And we know that people have migrated for different reasons, and some have been forced out of their homeland. We don't want to go into those types of histories. But the communities contribute, wherever they are, contribute to the cultural diversity and promotes have to promote the global interconnectedness, because they have to relate to their families. They have to attach themselves to celebrations and important traditional ceremonies that are very important to keeping their families together. And they also have to do their transnational networks, because a lot of persons who migrate for better. And so even in the culture of the Caribbean, especially in that context, they send remittances and they promote cultural exchange and they do trade and they advocate when they leave. So it really entails a large group to maintain their resilience and so on. But interestingly, as I look at life, Obi, our lives are made up of stories. We cannot escape stories. And so I find that when I follow in the diaspora persons from the diaspora who are really telling their stories through the digital media network of films and movies and TV shows, I find that I love the confirmed Nollywood channels. I love the Emma Chinudom comedies. I love Mr. Loy. I find that Hadra, Anim TV, those persons are telling powerful and relevant stories that give a metaphoric commentary, algoric commentary on life and policies and principles and traditions that may need to be maintained, and some that may need to be reflected on, and some that may need to change. And these stories are so real and powerful, and that is why they have millions and millions of views and so on. So the storytelling in my mind builds community and creates bonds internationally and transactionally with persons who are not apart. Good. And so we are saying it serves to build communities and bonds among the communities wherever they are, because it provides, in my mind, a shared narrative and a collective memory, and solidifies a sense of belonging among individuals who feel displaced or marginalized in their new surroundings. And I tell you, that is not an easy path for persons who have been separated, who are starting over, and who are adjusting with a lot of marginalization or misunderstanding of how things are done. And so these storytelling events, these movies, these audio lives, these workshops or online platforms help to connect and help to push empathy and compassion and understanding, but most importantly, gives emotional and spiritual support as they seek to provide a conduit for passing down cultural traditions and keep them alive, of retaining and preserving the language that is important and the values that makes generations distinct, and also helps one to reclaim and maintain their identity by sharing the stories from their homeland. They keep this heritage alive, and they instill also a sense of pride and ownership in the younger generation, which is very important for those who come behind, because those who come behind must find us faithful, very faithful, as we eliminate our identity and the parts in us that are perfect and whole. And as we reconcile our cultural roots and differences with our present reality, and as we begin to form and find acceptance within ourselves and the communities that we commit ourselves to strengthen through our storytelling, it also challenges the stereotypes that are and misconceptions about immigrants from these cultural divides. And it makes us go deep in us and find the resilience and the perseverance and the determination that continues to humanize our communities and cultivate that type of uniqueness that belongs to us. And it gives voice, this storytelling gives voice to individuals who have been muffled in these communities that they find themselves, and gives them a type of innate resistance to this marginalization that makes them amplify their voices. So even if they do not speak, their stories, their film, the theater, the literature, the digital platforms tell their stories and assert their presence in such a way that they command recognition for their contributions.
Thank you so much for that. We appreciate you, Dr. Marcia. Thank you so much for what you're sharing there. They are really very vital within the conversation of the day. Like you put it, as we are looking at the mass migration that is happening from a different part of the world to another part of the world, where we are now continuously dispersed, either as a result of conflict that might be happening in one part of the economy. But conflict is not necessarily only in terms of war. The conflict might also be the disparity as a result of economic instability and all of that. And it compel people to move from one place to the other. But as you are moving, and like I was saying before, you are not moving just as an object, as many journalists will make it believe that now we have 200 immigrants. We make it appear that you are looking at just number to balance of the statistics. We are looking at human beings that have wives, men that have wives, women that have husband, young people that have family, have mother, have father. They are connected directly to other people. So as they are moving, and that is an entire generation that is moving. That is an entire people that is moving, even in a person. So it means that we have it almost as an obligation to keep on telling our story, to make sure that our story is alive. How our story, our culture can be alive is if we live it. It cannot be alive by just remaining in our head. It's alive because we are expressing it. That is something that I often say here in Obehi podcast. That for flower to celebrate nature, all it needs to do is just flower. That is what it is. Just flower. And that is the beauty of nature. So for us to live our culture, all we need to do is just live it. Share the experiences with other people. Of course, not everybody is going to like you because you are different. Because differences for some other person is a negative thing. But that is the person's disadvantage, because that is not what differences mean. Differences actually mean value. It means an additional value. It doesn't mean negative thing. It doesn't mean because it is different now, okay, I need to be afraid of that. No, come on. We need to grow up to the point that, okay, we understand that, yes, everybody is not like you. Yes, everybody do not need to see it the way you see it, but it's still beautiful. It is still beautiful that this is the way it is. But we need to share. We need to share with people. Now, coming to what Dr. Marcia was talking about before, of Nollywood, for example, we have managed to garner millions and millions of spectators all across the world. We can see that why that is happening is because the story that those people are sharing in Nigeria is resonating across hundreds of millions of the Africans in the diaspora. You see, up until recently, it wasn't even possible to see those images, those graphics that are coming from Nollywood. Therefore, if it doesn't exist, if you can't see it according to Euro-Western idea of life, then it doesn't exist. Because we don't see it the way that we think that it should be, therefore it doesn't exist. But then came Nollywood. They started to project the image. And now, wherever you find yourself as African diaspora, you have an alternative to the narrative. It is no longer only through American narrative of Africa. It is not only through the European explanation of what an African should be. You now have an alternative way to do this. To take up a film, for example, and see it. To see how an African person relates to the normal life. Sometimes it's also about challenges. Yes, we have challenges sometimes, but we have a way of dealing with it. We are not just fighting for the sake of fighting. We are fighting because there are things that we are dealing with. All this needs to be explained by us. It cannot be explained by some other person who just think they know it. No. We are here. Let's say our point of view. Let's explain what we are feeling. This is what we are talking about. Sharing our story. We are sharing it so that other persons can also learn from it.
Good morning, everyone. You're all in my prayers. If you don't know me, to quickly know me, I am Wonder Woman with a Siamese cat personality. I have been around this world so many times because I was a professional jazz singer for 47 years, comedian for 37, and a project consulting, which I just launched for over 22. Now that all that's done and said, I love history. I love culture. I love Africa. I've been there many times as I traveled around the world, primarily Kenya and Tanzania, because that's where I performed, was Tanzania. The thing about art, culture, history, it has to be kept alive. Because if you don't know your history, you're not going to know truly what your present and future is, because history involves it all. And you've got to have your history so that you can move forward, so that you can learn, so you can enjoy life more. What I have discovered in various parts of the world is that a lot of cities, especially Jacksonville, Florida, are erasing all the history. And people don't know what's up from what's up. That's horrible. It's actually deplorable. Everyone must keep their history, must keep the knowledge of it, so we can develop from there, become better, become united. There are so many wars going on right now, and it's because of ignorance, stupidity, anger, and greed. We've got to unite as a people. We've got to stand up and inform each other of our history, our culture, our art. These are beautiful things that were created and developed even more. Anyway, that's all I've got to really say about it. Blessed be. Everybody have a wonderful and successful week.
Thank you so much for that. We appreciate you. We appreciate your point of view and your contribution here. That is important. We need to keep it alive. We need to celebrate our culture by talking about it, by living it like the flower. Flower need to celebrate nature by just flowering. So how could we do this? I want to turn the mic to our sister Gloria.
Thank you, Brother Obehi. And as always, Dr. Marcia, wonderful piece of exploration that you gave us there. Thank you so much. You know, ancestral healing. Well, I'll start by saying cultivating our own ways of storytelling in the diaspora involves embracing our own unique cultural backgrounds while also integrating our experiences and perspectives from our own living environment. You know, taking time to explore and reflect on your cultural heritage, learn about the stories, myths, and traditions of our ancestors. Consider how these narratives have shaped your identity and worldview. You know, as a member of the diaspora, you know, you need to draw from personal experiences where you'll find rich sources of storytelling material. Reflect on the moments of joy, struggle, triumph, and resilience in your life. And this will also tie in with ancestral lineage healing. You'll be surprised what you find just talking to your elders, talking to members of the family, to share with you just some of the information that they have, because the richness of all the things that have gone on before us are sitting right in our midst, but we have to look for it. Then share with others what you found out. We must witness for one another. These personal narratives can form the basis of your storytelling. Living in the diaspora offers some unique experiences, and embracing the hybrid nature of diasporic identity, explore how different cultural traditions and perspectives intersect and interact in your life without losing your core identity. Pay attention to the stories of others within your diaspora community and beyond. Listen to the experiences and perspectives of diverse voices and be open to learning from their stories and the stories that others tell. I love listening to other people's stories and finding common themes. Approaching storytelling with empathy and authenticity and not judgment. We're so quick to judge in our society now. Just be still. Listen to what other people are saying about their experiences. Allow yourself to be vulnerable and genuine in sharing your experiences. Connect with people on a human level by conveying emotions, insights, and most importantly, how you resonate with universal themes of identity, belonging, and resilience. You know, since I became an ancestral lineage healing practitioner, I found that storytelling takes a different, it looks different, in the sense that the stories that I'm telling about what my life experiences are stories that they have their roots from my ancestors. That my stories are their stories are mine. And they may I may have lived it in a different way, but the connection is still there. And I think that this is an area that many of us in the diaspora and beyond, are now looking to see as another form of healing modality, learning about the struggles of our ancestors, identifying with the roots, our culture, and garnishing, can't find the word now, um, uh, being able to embrace the strengths and the tapping into the intuition that we have inherently. All of these things can help us in our own individual healing and healing as a community. So just thinking about, every now and then, because people will say, well, I don't know how to tell stories. What do they look like? I'll give an example. I was invited to speak at the seminary where because I'm an ordained minister, as well as many other hats I wear. And I became ordained about, I think about 9 years ago. And I was invited by the seminary where I was ordained to come and give them a talk on African spirituality. And I was quite taken aback because, the students or the ordinants who were going to I was going to be speaking to, where they're all white. And I thought, well, I'm giving a talk on African spirituality. How's that going to work? Because I'm not sure that they're going to really understand what it is, I'm going to impart on them. But then something said to me, we're human beings first before anything else. And trust that whatever you say in your authentic way is going to resonate. And that's what I did. I spoke about experiences. I spoke about my life as a Nigerian, as a Yoruba, from the Yoruba culture. I prayed in my Yoruba language, and the response just shocked me, because people even told me that even though they didn't understand the language when I prayed in Yoruba, but they felt it. They felt the authenticity. They felt the power of the prayer. So again, I was there, sort of checking myself and trying to be small and trying to, show up in a way that wasn't genuine in order to fit into something that I thought would be more accepting. And then I thought to myself, no, I haven't come this far, to not to be true to who I am. And the fact that I was invited to speak about who I am. So again, I had to think about it and be still with it and say, if I'm comfortable with my intention and what it is I want to do, just tell my story. Whoever needs to hear it just the way it is will hear it.
Thank you so much, sister. That is so beautiful. That is so really beautiful. That is so really beautiful. Before I say anything there, I want us to reflect on something. When a child is born, in what language do that child cry the first time? Because the first word coming from the child usually is a cry. In what language does that child cry? Is that in English, in Igbo, in Hausa, in Chinese, in French? Well, I leave that to you. But there's another thing I want you to reflect on. When we shout, like when we really wail, we are wailing. In what language do we really do that apart from the talking in it? What about laughing? When we laugh. You see, I'm trying to say this to mean that at the level of human being, there are certain things that we do that go beyond, that actually bypass the regular grammar that we have. That you are speaking English, I'm speaking Hausa, or the other is speaking French or speaking Spanish. When you cry, you cry. I don't need to understand the language you are using to cry. I know that you are crying. When you laugh, I know that you are laughing. I don't need to understand the language. You see, before we in Nigeria, before we started to have the Nigerian film, we used to watch a lot of Chinese film, this Chick Chong, and of course you will understand, a lot of Chinese film coming to Nigeria. We don't understand what they were saying. Okay, there were some of them that have the translation, but very many of them didn't have translation. We were still enjoying it, no? Because they are talking to the human spirit. I think that is what really makes this sense. In that storytelling, in fact, that is why we are also saying that we should use storytelling in business, because it had to bypass the regular layer that the people set up. If you can tell the story, you connect to the human mind. And the human mind is deeper than language. It's deeper than language in the sense that it's deeper than your regular linguistics. It goes deeper than that at the level of emotion. So that when you are talking and your eyes is glowing, people don't need to know what language you are speaking. They know that. How do they know? That is how they feel too when they are talking. And it doesn't matter which language they used to talk. When you are talking at a certain point, you just freeze. They know what that means, because that is what happens to them too. When you are talking at a point, you start, maybe some tears rolling down your eyes. You don't really need to do that in words. You are expressing it in emotion. People understand what that means. Who have you cried before? Each of us have cried before. So we know what it means when a human being cries. The same is true when we laugh. We know what it means. So I really appreciate that work that you did there, Sister Gloria, in that when you are authentic to yourself, even though you are speaking Yoruba, they understand what you are saying. Yes, they understand what you are saying, because you are touching something deeper than the regular linguistic. And that is what we really need to do. I have seen in many occasions that African, because before I was talking about dialogue, no, because of course we are called upon to also dialogue to help people to understand us, but also to understand other people. Because sometimes you see some people coming. Okay, now let's say I live in Europe. You see some European cultural expert coming to explain to you what their culture is because they want you to better integrate into the system or better interact with them. Actually, just as they are doing that, you are also doing the same today, helping them to understand. We need to understand each other. This is important. So when we are called upon to explain who we are, let's explain who we are without necessarily saying, they are not mature enough to understand me, or they are not able to understand my language, they are too advanced to understand what I'm talking about. No, just explain who you are. And if you do it the way you are, they will understand. Except they are not human beings. Because human beings understand other human beings. You see, across Africa until recently, I want to say until a couple of hundreds of years ago, when we now have nations like Nigeria, South Africa, or Benin Republic, or Ghana, Africans have been dealing with each other before. In that people are moving from north to south, east to west. They are speaking different languages. Yoruba going to trade with the Igbo people. They didn't have a common language. It doesn't matter. When you go to interact with other human beings, there must be a way to break that barrier of language. Because the human being supersedes always that. So I think it is important that we present ourselves the way we are. That is what people are looking for. That is what they want to connect with. Not our pretense to be like what they think that we should be. No, be the way you are. That is originality. All right, Dr. Marcia, I have a question for you. Now, you work with children, that you have written books for children, you have a good experience in education. Now, we're talking about storytelling. What do you think are maybe the best way, or why might we even consider integrating storytelling into education and cultural program? Please help us with that.
All right. I have spent over 25 years in the education industry in the Caribbean, and I have moved from every level, classroom teacher to administrator to leader of organizations at different levels, kindergarten right up to the university level. And I am finding, if I am to be realistic and practical, that the proliferation of the digital media right now and the online platform that is our legacy since 2020, COVID, has really transformed the way we share, the way we disseminate, and the way we consume stories. And for that reason, I would want to say in 2024 and beyond, the digital media and connectivity has to be strengthened in education. Those who do not find themselves adopting and becoming open and flexible enough to integrate it more than a flavor in their delivery of any curriculum or any course are going to find themselves marginalized by nature of the fact that that is the way that we are going. We are not turning back. We are moving forward in that manner. And so we have to find ourselves as educators, as stakeholders, as curriculum planners, as teachers, and even as business persons who have to educate and train, HRs, entrepreneurs, and so on. We have to make sure that we leverage digital storytelling in our delivery so that we can maximize our brand by reaching wider audiences and connecting with the persons that need our services and having them advertise what we are doing. We want to understand the place now of the internet and how the unprecedented opportunities, because I'm choosing my word carefully, that it provides to integrate storytelling properly in education so that for the aim of, because education in itself, in my book and how I see it, must have as its core and as its foundation, making persons become masters of their own destiny and show up unapologetically, just like what Gloria chose to do when you are called to make your choices, to make decisions, and to chart your life path, and to embrace your life script, because I'm using words that are storytelling related, because life is really your story. How you live life is that you live it as it is, and most times it's not how you want it. And as a Christian leadership consultant and life coach, I recognize the importance of identifying your definite purpose and living your purpose, because it is not separated from who you are, your passions, and what drives you. When you integrate storytelling into education, persons are able to embrace themselves, love themselves, accept themselves, and resonate with others to support them in becoming. And we are finding that individuals who are seeped in a culture provided by education is able to make that or analyze that intersection between technology, their culture, their circumstances, and globalization in the modern era. And so we have to find these creative ways to have stories becoming a fixture through organizing workshops in that context, just like what we have in our course, OBE, that allows participants to learn the art of storytelling, the techniques, the narrative structure, the character development, and the ways in which we pull on the emotions of people. We must also have story circles in our schools, in our organizations, in our industries. And I particularly like the story circles, because we are able to gather persons to share their personal narratives in a way that does not make them feel attacked, but supported. And that's very, very important in the cultural exchange and the themes and the dialogue, and how we actively listen, and how we promote community building and empathy and intercultural exchange in our schools and in our experiences. I also have promoted incorporating storytelling across subject areas. So even in maths, we have stories in maths. We call them math stories or math narrative. And in arts and in language arts and social stories. And we use these stories in context to teach difficult concepts, to spark curiosity, and to increase engagement and participations among our students in the interdisciplinary learning environments that are present in these institutions of learning. And we also want to more than ever though, integrate, I keep saying it and I will not stop, the digital media. How we get our students to digitize their stories. And there are ways now where we have persons who promote animated instructions and have children learn how to do their animation and their coding and so on. These are ways that we have to include storytelling in education, and we have to equip ourselves. So those of us who are educators, and those of us who are HR professionals, and those of us who are entrepreneurs and so on, and who teach, because a lot of entrepreneurs and so on, we find that we train people how to become what they want, how to do this, and how to integrate these things into their businesses. Those of us who are coaches, we also teach. It's a way of educating persons on how they can overcome certain challenges and how they can build themselves and their skills and their talents and how they can step into their purpose. And so we have to become believers in ourselves. So it has to become a way of life for us, in that we are able to integrate storytelling in our own situations and in our own context. And we have to start believing our stories so we can convince persons to tell their stories and believe their stories and use their stories to navigate and change their outcomes, change their lives, and also change the lives of those around them. So, as we integrate it into education and into the cultures that promote education and learning, we must make it realistic and practical. We must preserve the authenticity of our stories, and we must support persons to show up unapologetically and tell their stories for the purpose that it serves, to change, to challenge stereotypes, to make them become masters of their own destiny, and to make them also understand the value of storytelling in life and to navigate life.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you. That is so important. Yeah, we can never forget that we must tell our story unapologetically. That is really powerful. I appreciate your delivery there. That is really very important. So, Sister Tino, what would be your final thought here today? And please remember to tell people also how to find you if they want to learn more about what you're doing. Your final take, please.
Okay, thank you, Brother Obehi. That's something I always forget to do. Well, how I want to just close is, again, making reference to my Yoruba culture, and we have concepts of itan, which is history, iwa, which is character, and ori, which is our destiny, and they're all deeply intertwined with generational stories, intergenerational stories, emphasizing the significance of maintaining cultural identity and moral values across generations. Sometimes when I talk to colleagues and friends, and they say, "Well, that sounds too complex. I wouldn't know how to talk, on such deep level." And I just say to them, "Tell me a little bit about your journey to this country, or how you went from one work to another piece of work." And by the time they start telling their story, I can see the light bulb, on their, that they can see that they are telling their stories. This is storytelling. There's nothing fancy about it. Yes, you can write a book if you like, but just talking, and I've learned, it has taken me decades to learn that, and value my own stories, which interestingly enough is my children who would tell me, your stories about your life and your family are fascinating. And I'd look at their little faces, that, oh, really? That's something that I just took for granted. That's just my life. That's just the life I led. But anytime, the more I've talked about it, when I was training to become a minister, when I was training to become an ancestral lineage healing practitioner, in all these spaces, I had to tell my stories. I had to tell about my life experiences. And the more I told those stories, the more I felt something within me. How do I put it? Something within me just, it was like medicine. I was telling my brother Obehi that there are different kinds of medicine. There's the tablets and things. That's one type of medicine. But there's medicine we bring within ourselves. Medicine that is part of our makeup, what we have come into the world with. Through our ori, our destiny, our intuition. We all carry our own individual medicine in the world, and how we choose to use that medicine, to share that medicine, to gift other people with that medicine, can come through the stories we tell, the authenticity about our lived experiences. So I encourage everybody, on some small level, if you're not used to it, just remember, different experiences that you had. Talk to somebody about it. Just tell them, share things between each other. let it become something natural, not something you feel ashamed of or something you're fearful about. Because as human beings, what we share more things than we don't share, if that makes sense. So begin to start telling your stories. Come to these rooms, let us talk to one another. We're living in very challenging and tender times. It doesn't take, it's not rocket science. We see it. There's a lot of suffering going on. There are lots of stories people have to tell. And so I encourage you to share your stories with others. My name is Gloria Tinu Ogumbadejo. I'm an ordained minister, psychotherapist, mental health advocate, a writer, and an ancestral lineage healing practitioner. I support African women ministers looking to add spirituality to their ministry. I support Africans in the diaspora who are looking for cultural reconnection, emotional, psychological, intergenerational healing, strengthening their identity, tapping into their intuition, bringing harmony and balance into their lives, reclaiming cultural traditions, looking back to their elders, ancestors to gain wisdom, direction, instruction, and protection, claiming our divine gifts, strengths, and blessings. I work with anybody who is interested in this line of work. I can be found on LinkedIn and also my website. There's a lot of information there, gloriaogumbadejo.com. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Alafia.
Thank you so much, Sister Alafia. We appreciate that. We do. All right. No, it was supposed to be time for Dr. Matsia to say, okay, yeah, Dr. Matsia, yeah, it's your turn. Please give your last take and let the people know how to find you.
My internet is giving me so much trouble today. I am on several programs. But in ending and in closing, I would want to say, and I would want to encourage those who are on this program, along with all of what Gloria has said. I endorse everything, and I want to encourage us to continue exploring the power of storytelling in our own work, in our own communities, in our own environments, whether it is through sharing personal narratives, organizing cultural events, collaborating on creative products or projects, harnessing the transformative power of storytelling to celebrate our diversity by making our workplace more inclusive, because that is the future of the workplace, promoting understanding and strengthening connections across borders are some important steps that we need to take to shape the culture of storytelling throughout the diaspora. I also want us to remember that our stories have the power to inspire us. So let us keep this conversation going and continue shaping a more inclusive and interconnected world through this art of storytelling. I am Dr. Marcia Thomas. I am a Christian leadership coach and life consultant and life coach. I particularly train and help leaders, but more so introverted, faith based women in leadership to overcome life traumas and pivot with power. I have a Pivot with Power Empower Her Accelerator program that I have just launched, and I am in the process of putting out a course and starting my podcast on a leader like you. We will talk to Obehi concerning that. I am also in the process of relocating, and so I I'm just putting out my newsletters and blogs for the time being, and also doing the one-on-one coaching, personalized coaching with my clients who are introverted women who want to pivot. It doesn't mean that I have not had male clients. I do have them too, on a scale that is a little lower. I want to encourage us to keep supporting each other in our different fields and in our different chants, and DM me if you need to talk to me about the programs I offer and what I do. And remember, as Obi puts that link in the chat, to just vote, 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 so I can take this home in fine style. Have a great day. And thank you all for engaging and listening and being a part of this rich discussion. And we appreciate your contributions, Gloria. It's an honor always to share a stage with you. And Obi, keep doing what you do. You are a valuable source and a treasure in this industry and the master of storytelling. God be with you.
Thank you so much, sister. And I appreciate you. I appreciate both of you for the sharing, for this opportunity, for the value that you are adding to people here continuously. We are grateful. We are grateful to you. And of course, like all of you that are listening, and of course those that will listen also, because this room is being recorded and it's going to be available on our YouTube channel. So you hear what these two gentle ladies have shared. If you want to connect with them, please, you have the means to be able to do so. If you find what they are saying to resonate with you, please connect with them and work with them. That is what we are in here for again. Yes, storytelling can be a very powerful tool for us to be able to reshape our culture in the diaspora, because just in the diaspora, we are not just figures. We are human beings. We are carrying our culture. We are carrying our experiences. We are carrying also the story of our ancestors. So as we are here, we need to use our story to be able to shape that culture and help the people we are cohabiting, we are coexisting in their territory to understand who we are and what we represent. And also, most importantly, what can they benefit for having us in their territory? That is our job to do. And storytelling is one of the best tools for us to be able to do that. And of course, if you want to learn more, we have courses on aclasses.org, which is our business website, where you can also find a free copy of this book. It's available for you. You don't need to pay anything for it. If you read it and you like it, then of course, you can reach out to me so that you can learn how to get either the 5-part, the book, because the book is a 5-part, or maybe take more courses for you to be able to improve your storytelling. And we are here every 2 weeks. So join us again next 2 weeks, where we shall be taking on another issue relating to diaspora storytelling. So thank everyone and have a wonderful time.